Good morning, Facebook. Mike Duffy here at the state capitol, where the first partner is about to announce a plan to increase equal pay around the state. They're just stepping out now, so I'm going to flip the camera over and you can watch it live.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Newsom, and I'm the first partner of California. Today, it is my absolute honor to announce the launch of Equal Pay California, a campaign to close the wage gap in our great state. I want to start by thanking our partners on the campaign, the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, and Time's Up. Thank you to the California Labor and Workforce Development Agency and our Labor Secretary, Julie Sue. Thank you to the Pay Equity Task Force members that are here today. Thank you to our Lieutenant Governor and the members of our legislature that are here today. And thank you to Monica Ramirez, founder of Justice for Migrant Women, for being with us today for the launch of Equal Pay California. Now, as first partner, my priorities are clear. I'm here to uplift women and girls across the state of California and ensure gender equity once and for all. Let's not forget, women are the backbones of their families, their communities, and society at large. So when we lift up women, we lift up everyone. But in far too many ways, our society tells women that they are not quite as valuable as men. It's in our media, where women comprise only 31% of protagonists on the big screen. It's in our textbooks, where men have saved the day and women are barely mentioned. And it's in our leadership, where though this last election did make a dent, women still comprise only 24% of Congress. And of course, we've never had a female president. But there is perhaps no better proof of the way our society has devalued women than Equal Pay Day. This year, it falls on April 2nd, meaning April 2nd is the day that marks how far into this year, beyond last year, the average woman in America must work to earn what the average man made just last year. And when we look only at women of color, we have to go even further into the year. Black Women's Equal Pay Day is in August, and Latino Women's Equal Pay Day is in November. So in California, it is time to end this injustice. It is time to close the gap. Now, as the first partner of California, I'm proud to say that California is already leading on this issue with the strongest equal pay laws in the nation, thanks in large part to the incredible California legislature and the women you see standing here with me today. I want to especially thank Senator Hannah Beth Jackson for your incredible leadership on this effort. But as we all know, passing laws is just the first step. In order to move the needle forward from a defining moment on equal pay to actual implementation and transformation, we need to come together and commit to transform the status quo. And that is why we, the Office of the First Partner of California, the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, and Time's Up, are launching Equal Pay CA, a partnership to raise awareness about the wage gap, to challenge businesses to lead on pay equity, and provide new resources created by the Commission's Pay Equity Task Force. Now, the Commission's Pay Equity Task Force has been working diligently on these resources for the past 2.5 years. And they've put together an extraordinary body of work that will enable employees to learn about their rights and employers to learn about their responsibilities so that each of us understands how to close the wage gap in California once and for all. In other words, a roadmap has been created, and now it's our collective turn to take the wheel. And here's where I want to thank the extraordinary leadership of the 13 inaugural signatories to the California Equal Pay Pledge. These 13 companies who signed the pledge have committed to taking concrete steps to ensure pay equity for all workers, and for that we are so grateful. I especially want to thank Melissa Sangren from Airbnb, Lupita Sanchez Cornejo from AT&T, Jenna Steele from Sunrun, and Kate Huber from Zynga for being with us here today. Your leadership will move California forward. And so now I want to turn it back to the people of California and of this nation. How can you all be a part of the larger equity solution? Well, I say join us. Share our campaign and help us reach pay equity in California. Because together we can uplift California women and ensure a more equitable future for all. And as California goes, so will go the nation. That is right. Woo is right. So now it's my honor to introduce the chair of the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, Dr. Alicia Wilkins. It is because of the incredible leadership of the Commission on this issue that we are all here today. Please welcome Dr. Alicia Wilkins.
Good afternoon. So as the sole state agency focused on gender equity, the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls is pleased to release this resource created in more than 2 years worth of effort by the Pay Equity Task Force. The task force was comprised of multiple stakeholders that represent major employers, employees, HR professionals, and union representatives. We are proud to have produced this guide that will support proactive implementation of the California Fair Pay Act. We will be engaging the public about this resource and working to close the pay equity gender gap. As increasing numbers of women become the primary breadwinner for their families, closing this gap is critical. Equal Pay Day is April the 2nd of this year, and women compared to men earn 80 cents on each dollar. But that's not the full story. The wage gap for women of color is even greater. As our first partner mentioned, African American women, Equal Pay Day is August the 22nd, and they earn 61 cents to every dollar. For Latinas, it's November the 20th, and they earn 53 cents to every dollar. We have much to do to ensure that pay equity is achieved for all women in the state of California. Now I would like to introduce Julie Sue to the podium. Julie is now the Secretary of the California Labor Workforce Development Agency. Prior to her appointment, she served on the commission in her capacity as Labor Commissioner and was instrumental co-chair in the Pay Equity Task Force. Julie Sue.
Good morning. I'm proud to be here today with my colleagues on the Commission on the Status of Women and Girls, and I am truly honored to serve the people as Labor Secretary. I was drawn to serve in the governor's cabinet, not just to work for a bold and visionary governor, but for the fierce commitment to justice that the first partner brings. Her advocacy uplifts women, many of whom do the hardest and most backbreaking jobs in our economy, often women of color and immigrant women, and who too often endure wage theft on the job. The law we're here to talk about today, California's Fair Pay Act, recognizes that paying women less than men for substantially similar work is a form of wage theft. Like employers who steal their employees' minimum wages or fail to pay overtime, paying women less is a denial of the fundamental promise of a just day's pay for a hard day's work. But passing good laws is not the finish line. It puts us at the start of a great race, and enforcement is how we win. Enforcement and compliance are how we turn good policy ideas into reality. To fulfill the promise of pay equity, we need employees who are aware of their rights, employers with the tools to do the right thing, and government agencies committed to effective investigations of violations. This is why we created the Pay Equity Task Force. As Alicia already mentioned, we were intentional about making sure that there was a broad cross-section of Californians represented on that task force. So we had legislators, we had employee advocates like the equal rights advocates and unions, we had employer representatives like the California Chamber of Commerce, human resources experts, and attorneys for companies large and small, including the Gap and Sunrun. We also had statisticians, sociologists, and labor market experts, as well as government. And today, we are releasing the resources, user-friendly tools, and materials we created. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about those materials. We wanted to focus on smaller employers who are the engines of California's economy, but who don't often have HR departments and outside counsel. So we created resources such as how to create a culture of pay equity in your workplace that includes recruitment, hiring, training, promotions, retention, diversity at the very top levels, wage transparency and limiting discretion in pay, and fair performance evaluations. Our tools also include how to conduct a pay equity analysis, which means looking beyond job titles to what people are actually doing and then assessing whether men and women are being paid the same for that work. We want to amplify these resources because employers who want to do the right thing should know that we are on their side. Our tools also help employees to understand their rights, to understand that they can talk about and ask about pay while at work, and that they are protected from retaliation. And it also has a link to filing a claim with the California Labor Commissioner's Office, who investigates these violations if you feel that your rights are violated. Our materials also give unions tools to bring about pay equity in the collective bargaining agreements. And we include information for job seekers about how to create a resume, how to know what the pay is in a certain labor market or for certain jobs. Because research shows that women not only are offered less oftentimes when they start work, but sometimes even ask for less. So our work recognizes that the path forward requires change from employers, employees, and in culture, expectations, and power. Our next speaker is the author of the Fair Pay Act. Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, stalwart defender of the principle that California's laws should reflect women's worth, represents California's 19th Senate District, which includes all of Santa Barbara County and Western Ventura County. She has been a tireless voice for protecting and expanding the California dream. Her decades-long commitment to equal pay is what made the work of the Pay Equity Task Force possible. California's own Senator Jackson.
I love it.
I don't mind having to stand on this. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog, and everyone who's here. Everyone who's here today understands that, because this is a battle that we have been fighting a long, long time. I call this my 35-year overnight success because I have been working on equal pay for that many years. And yet, in 2015, when we got this bill passed, we had the support not only of the business community, but bipartisan support where 118 of 120 legislators voted in support of this bill. It was long overdue, and the work of the task force in helping to implement this is going to assure that we do, in fact, have equal pay. We've had equal pay in the books in this state since 1949, but we haven't had equal pay. And the work of this task force is going to ensure that everybody comes together and works to achieve this goal. And I also want to give a very special shout out to the first partner. The first partner demonstrating to all of us throughout California and the nation what the real bully pulpit looks like and how it can be used for good and to better the policies of this country for equality and justice for everyone. So now I'm supposed to read my remarks. Okay. So again, you heard what this bill does. You've heard what the task force is doing. It is critically important that we take this work seriously. It is critically important that we change the culture, because California does indeed show the rest of the country what is possible. As the fifth largest economy in the world, we have the opportunity to demonstrate what success looks like. And it looks like inclusion. It looks like equal dignity and respecting everyone for the work that they do. And I look out here and I see people who have fought their whole lives for this to happen. And we are now at a place where there are 41 other states in the country that are using California's Fair Pay Act, the bill that we passed in 2015 that got implemented starting in 2016, as the template, as the model for their own efforts to achieve equal pay in those 41 other states. Watch us, folks. Emulate us. We can all work together to make it happen, because women's paychecks have to reflect the hard work and the true value of our work. Our work is equally valuable and needs to be paid as such. So I look forward to the day when we don't need an equal pay day. We will just have equal pay every day. And with that, thank you all for being here. Thank you to the first partner. Thank you to all of the people who are here. Our first woman lieutenant governor in the history of the state of California, surrounded by these other extraordinary women and a few good men who are all going to help us make this possible. And so now I'd like to introduce Monica Ramirez, who is a nationally recognized advocate for gender equity and the founder for Justice for Migrant Women, and also, time's up? Time's up. We're ready to roll. Thank you all.
Good afternoon. It's a real honor to be here with you today. You know, as was said, I do work nationally, and there are many states across this country that are looking to the state of California for leadership, for your vision, for your courage. Thank you, First Partner, for all that you're doing to set an example for the rest of the nation. Thank you, Senator Jackson, and to every single person up here and in the crowd who's been instrumental in ensuring that this day was possible, and that going forward, workers across this state will have a better chance at being paid fairly for their work. You know, I have seen far too often in workplaces across this country where workers' value is not shown. You know, for most people across this state, you might not realize that the national average for a farm worker woman's salary, many of whom are in this state, is just $11,000 a year. So while we work to close the pay gap, we cannot forget that we must close the pay gap for the least visible workers to the most visible workers. This state leads on closing the pay gap because of the strong laws that it has on the books. But the law is only so good as it is accessible to the people. And that's why this initiative is so important, because this initiative makes the strong laws in California accessible to people. And because of the rigorous process that the Commission has undergone, the law is not only going to be accessible to the highest paid workers in the state, but it is also going to be accessible to the least paid workers in the state, including farm worker women, the community that I come from. The Equal Pay Pledge is significant because it is calling on employers to say that they stand with workers, because they understand that when workers win, they win too. But now we need to make sure that the good work that has been done by this commission, the great work that has been done by Senator Jackson, the leadership that has been shown by the first partner, reaches every single industry and every single sector across this state. And as we think about the way forward, I want to call on you to consider this. You see, when we don't pay women fairly today, it has long-term consequences for their families going forward. The pay gap that women experience now has multi-generational impacts for their families. That means when a woman is not paid equally now, she has less money to save, she has less money to pay for her rent, she has less money to put away for her child's education, and the consequence of that goes on and on. And that's why it shouldn't be surprising that as we talk about the wider pay gap for women of color, we should not be shocked to know that not only do women of color face wider pay gaps, but we also face much larger pay gaps when we talk about wealth accumulation. So closing the pay gap is essential to addressing the day-to-day needs of women workers across this state and across the nation, but it also is extremely critical for ensuring that for generations to come, every single person in this state and across this country has a fighting chance to have the best lives possible. We're looking to you, California, to continue to lead. You are the gold star, and I'm proud to be up here with all of you to celebrate this great accomplishment. Thank you.
So now I believe we are open to taking any questions if there are any.
Can you talk about making sure that women in lower paying jobs have access to knowing that they deserve equal pay and legally it's required? How do you protect them from bosses who say, you know, whatever, you're fired, basically? I mean, they don't have the money necessarily to pursue a lawsuit against that.
So I think there's two components to the answer, right? One is obviously outreach and awareness, and the other is enforcement. So in outreach and awareness, part of our launching this campaign and trying to amplify the voice is to make sure that it gets to every sector of our economy and every sector of our state. And prior to this launch, the first partner and I reached out to community-based organizations that work in low wage and with low wage workers to let them know about this and to give the resources directly to them. But on the enforcement side, that kind of retaliation is illegal. And we have on both the Labor Commissioner's website and in these materials a link to how you can file a claim if you are retaliated against for asking about your wages, for complaining about unequal pay, or for filing, for asserting your rights. So you're not forced to go to court. In California, we do have a government enforcement mechanism that is much lower cost and an expedited way of getting your rights enforced.
And I would just add that, you know, this campaign is about providing incentives and sort of the join the club mentality, be a socially responsible business. And obviously there are repercussions if you don't do that. But we've given ample space and time to motivate and inspire conscious capitalism. And I believe that there are incredible companies in this state who want to do good and want to do better, and now they have the tools, the resources, and no excuses.
Of the companies that are taking the pledge and doing this equity review, will you be disclosing your findings, or how will you be acting on what you find? And if you have a goal for how many companies you want, are you trying to get to take this pledge?
I'll jump in here. It's totally voluntary. And again, this is an attempt to change the culture, as the first partner indicated. We want all the companies to step forward and to be recognized as good stewards and good actors. And so the hope is that they will make the adjustments, and if they choose to announce them, that will be even better. But certainly the fact that they have stepped forward to indicate their willingness to participate is a strong statement about their commitment to this process. And before I forget, if I may, Judge Damrell is here, who actually was the co-chair of the task force, who did an incredible job and then got booted upstairs to become a judge. So I want to give you a shout out because I know how hard you worked and what you did on this as well.
Senator, is this just another way of actually getting rid of the good old boys club?
Well, you know, I guess you could look at it that way, but the way we look at it is now giving women not only an opportunity to excel and to support their families, but to be treated with equal dignity and respect in the workplace, because money is indeed, compensation is indeed how in our society we recognize people's contributions, and we want to be recognized for them equally. If we do the work, we should get paid for it, and discrimination shouldn't exist on any basis, and certainly not on the basis of our gender.
Okay, just one more question.
I would even just throw in an additional sort of provoking thought, that when we value women, those women will be able to care better for their families and contribute better to their families. And with reference to the Good Old Boys Club, those men will be more whole. And part of being whole is men playing a larger role in care and caregiving, while women also pursue careers. So I think it's a win-win. It's less getting rid of, it's allowing men to be whole, just as we're allowing women to be valued in our society.
And do you support SB 135, Senator Jackson's bill on paid family leave? Extending it?
Yes, I support Senator Annabeth Jackson's, all of her bills. And it's a wrap. Thank you all so much for being here.